Hello everyone, this is Venom Geek Media here. Before today's video, I'd like to give a shout out to my members. If you want to support the channel and enjoy what I make, then you too can become a member by clicking in the description below. Thank you very much. Right, today I am going to probably raise quite a bit of ire, because I have come to an opinion that is perhaps quite unpopular. And, well, you know from the title of the video, I think the Defiant is overrated. I know it's a very bold statement. I think the Defiant, Cisco's pimp hand, the Starfleet's conservative warmongering, I think it is overrated. Not necessarily in the show, but I think by the community. I think it's been given quite an inflated status that it perhaps doesn't deserve, and I'll explain why in this video, and really, talk in detail about the features, and also like what we see on screen. So obviously the thing to address is, of course, it's a hero ship, so yes, there's plot armor involved, but actually it doesn't do ridiculous things. It's certainly not a Mary Sue ship. It doesn't do ridiculous feats. They're actually quite consistent in the show about what it can and can't do, and I will explain. Apart from the Mirror Universe, just anytime the Mirror Universe comes up with any of this stuff, you just throw it out because it's like crazy, kooky, anything can happen. Anyway, why do I think the Defiant is overrated? Well, let's just get to a simple problem, and something I noticed when I was making the battle graphics for the Battle of Sector 001, and anyone who watched that battle, it's small. Like, very, very, very small. It's a really small ship. Like, tiny. It is absurdly small. It is really infinitesimally small. Okay. And it's like, well, what's wrong with that with being a small ship? Small is good, isn't it? You're harder to hit, you're quicker, and, yes, you have all these things. And that is, you can't engage above a certain weight class. And this is something that actually the show is pretty consistent with. We never see the Defiant take on anything larger than really a frigate. The biggest thing I see a Defiant actually destroy is a Breen ship, which is effectively a frigate. Most of the time, though, we'll see it blowing up Hidekis and Jem'Hadar fighters, which, it's a useful thing, but they're all very small. It never really threatens, certainly on its own, bigger ships. So it actually can't engage beyond a certain weight class. So it's not really powerful, as one thinks. For its size, it's very powerful. But compared to the juggernauts, the titans that are out there, like the Galaxy, the Negvar, the Dominion battlecruiser, no, not really. It also lacks range and accuracy with its guns. Now, it's small and maneuverable, so it kind of, counters that, because it can get in, and do all that dogfighting. Well, yes, but that's only at a certain stage of the battle. The other stage of the battle is going to be fought at range, basically battering one another's lines with torpedo volleys. That's how most battles kind of begin. In the early phases, the melee only begins once someone thinks they have an opportunity. And in that regard, it's not very good. It's got torpedo launchers, but it's not got long-range phasers. And that brings us to the torpedo launchers. Well, the Defiant is small anyway. It's a small ship anyway, so it probably isn't going to be able to carry many torpedoes, and we don't actually see it use that many torpedoes. It has quantum torpedoes, but you definitely don't have many of them. I don't know if we ever see it use photon torpedoes, but it definitely is not going to have many of any kind of torpedo. So, perhaps because of that, they perhaps just give it quantum torpedoes, because, you may as well make as best use of that space as you possibly can. And it's only going to use the quantum torpedoes really when it's an opportunity. But basically what this means is it's not a ship of the line. It's not really useful for the vast majority of the battle, because it can't actually engage at that mid to long range. So, additionally, This is kind of something that's baffling, but Resurrected Starships, he made the point that the Defiant probably lights up sensor arrays like a Christmas tree, and I would definitely agree with that. It's a very much a high-performance... Well, no, it's not necessarily high-performance, but it's like trying to make a stealth tank. There's certain qualities to it, and you can, make efforts towards it, but there's certain qualities towards a tank that make stealth not really work for it. And it's very much the same for the Defiant, because it's got such a big power core, it has such powerful engines for its size and weapons and everything, generates so much heat, it's going to be easy to detect. Quite why they then equip it with a cloaking device, I don't know. I don't know if that was just, that was the ship that best fit it, or Sisko was adamant about it and beat up Starfleet Command with a baseball bat until they agreed. Possibly that. But there are plenty of other ships that would perhaps work better with a cloaking device. The Defiant is basically stealthy until it's really not, and then when it goes loud, it goes really loud, and everyone's going to know about it. Which isn't really the best use of a cloaking device, and it's easy to detect without the cloak. So this is the one cloaking device you're allowed to use, and you give it to the loudest, most easy to detect ship out there. So really, in terms of the performance of that cloaking device, it's probably more comparable to Klingon cloaking devices, which are okay, but so it's a bit of a funny thing that it gets a cloak, and it does, like I say, it takes it into that range of Mary Sue, but considering how infrequently they use it, it's just a question of more like, why did they give it a cloaking device in the first place? Anyway, so that brings us to another point, and that is, as I alluded to with the kind of energy signature this thing is going to have, this thing is going to cost huge amounts. You're packing a lot of very advanced technology into a very small platform. It also mounts a very powerful engine with not much space. So chances are it runs through fuel like nobody's business. Chances are it burns out parts very easily. So you're constantly having to refuel it and then replace destroyed components. Ablative armor. Every time it takes a hit on its ablative armor doesn't regenerate. It's not regenerative armor. So you've got to go back to a starbase to get more ablative armor put on. So that's another thing you've got to put onto it, as well as all the fuel, as well as the weapons. Again, these are higher energy phasers, so they'll burn through the capacitors more, they'll burn through the phaser banks more. All in all, this is a ship that is going to consume huge amounts of resources. It very much reminds me of early Cold War interceptors, if you've heard of things like the MiG-25 Foxmat, which is very fast. It's a Mach 3 interceptor, very fast. And basically, if you look at it, it's basically two giant engines with some wings bolted on. Or the British Electric Lightning, which was a little bit earlier, and it was very impressive. It had a vertical double stack engines. It was very impressive, very quick interceptor, but it cost a huge amount of money to make. Well, not necessarily make, but to run the thing, it cost a huge amount of money. And that's a very similar thing for the Defiant. And that's in wartime, when you're on a war economy, when you're kind of in an attritional war. And that really then comes back to the fact that the Defiant isn't really ever gets the chance to be used in the way it was intended. A lot of people in my videos have said having a swarm of these against a Borg cube would be brilliant. And it probably would, yeah. The Borg would probably struggle a lot. But they didn't do that. Partially why they didn't do that is because it was going to be so expensive, and you have to, and that's the thing with a lot of the other anti-Borg ships, is most of the other ones are, yes, they're warships, but they also are actually useful as other stuff. The Defiant is not. if you buy a Defiant, if Starfleet puts resources into building Defiance, and then they don't end up having to fight the Borg again, they've wasted a huge amount of time and resources on a ship that's actually going to be useless. There's also the question of future-proofing, and basically, if you make it highly specialized, the chances are, the way in which it is specialized, the niche it fills, it's going to become unsuitable for in not too long. And then why are you going to want to upgrade it anyway if the threat isn't there? So it was going to become obsolete quickly. It's short range, you can't use it for exploration, and it's meant to be a swarm. We never see a swarm of Defiance, not even close. I'm talking about, a dozen, 2 dozen Defiance. Starfleet, I don't think, ever brings together that many Defiance in a battle. Okay, yes, in Deep Space Nine, they, only have Defiant, in its own shots, so that you don't get confused. Even then, I'd be tempted to say that each fleet doesn't have access to many Defiant class ships. I suspect they're only a small part of it. So it really never gets used in its intended role. The other thing this has the side effect of is it becomes suddenly a very obvious target. Here is a ship that is markedly more expensive than any of the others, which is their one of their main means of attack that Starfleet is going to use against you. It then becomes a very obvious target. Defiant class ships are, a big threat to, the Dominion, the Cardassians, whoever. So they're going to be, looking out for them in the battles. And because there's not many of them, they're obvious to spot and easy targets. So, with that all being said, what is the Defiant? It's a very good warship. It's a very good attack ship. It's very good at taking on huge Borg cubes, but it never really gets enough built of it to prove that concept. And it's a swine to maintain. It probably doesn't see much use after the Dominion War because it's so specialized. It probably very quickly becomes outmoded and just, discarded, or, well, not discarded because this is Starfleet, probably put into reserve. Yeah, in that regard, it's like the Defiant, it's good at what it does, but it only really does one thing, and that's blow up Jem'Hadar ships. Blow up small Jem'Hadar ships. But in anything else, it's kind of useless. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure I'll raise a lot of ire. And I know that, it's all kind of memes. It's all kind of part of the whole Cisco, Mad Lad Cisco memes. And I like them. I like the memes. I do. But I think it's, I just wanted to give a bit of a reality check for, the community in terms of what we actually see, and actually what we see on screen, which is, again, I think quite good. I like that they were actually quite consistent with this ship and made sure it was actually quite limited. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.